Hi David, great to have you on this interview about the Monocle Analyst Graduate Programme. It's obviously something that we're both very passionate about, and to get your insights and thoughts about, the key features and the insights about the Analyst Graduate Programme. So thanks for joining today.
Pleasure, Patrick.
Maybe start and tell us about the original idea and concept about the graduate programme and, why we believe it's so important at Monocle.
Sure, Patrick. So the firm's been going for 20 years, just on 20 years, and after, let's say, 10 to 12 years, it became very obvious to me that the single biggest problem in providing exceptional services to very professional banks around the world was, first of all, in developing the right kind of skill set in the right kind of person, and then retaining that skill set and developing that person's capability to deliver value. And after a lot of trying of different methods, it became clear that one of the more efficient methods would be to actually hire the right kind of person right in the beginning.
Sure.
And then train them in precisely the skill set that we required. So the original idea was to create, you could say, a force or an army of talented, well-spoken, decent people who had similar interests, and make it as fun as possible.
Sure. And I suppose the key concept of permanent employment from day one is one thing that always attracts students in this day and age, and we believe it obviously a highly important aspect of it. And why do we invest up front and offer that to students?
Yes, Patrick, I think it's one of those anomalies of the market where companies want to hire people with experience, because they're then tested in the market, but they don't necessarily want to take the risk of hiring someone without experience and developing that experience. So we took a very hard position and maintain that position, which is that we don't like the idea of giving people, for example, a 1-year contract or a 2-year contract. We want to show people right in the beginning that we have faith in them, and so that they can feel comfortable. And many of these people have never worked before, so this will be their first salary check. So it's imperative that they feel like we've put our faith in them.
Yeah, and exactly as you said, they can focus solely on their own training and development, and not worry about contesting for positions at the end of a training program, which ultimately brings them together as well. They feel more cohesive, more team orientated, and more openly wanting to share and help each other along in the graduate program, which has been a key feature of it.
100%, Patrick, 100%.
Obviously, training is a key aspect of it. You're heavily involved in the training, from day one. You're obviously passionate about lecturing, and I think that's one thing that you always aspire to, and many things that are involved. But I suppose just maybe speak around why we put a huge emphasis on the training and the makeup of what that training looks like.
Sure. Okay, so first of all, I think it's one of the insights into our business that the subject matter, that what you're actually doing in your job as a consultant at Monocle, is so technically complex and requires such a blend of skills, communication skills and complex problem-solving skills and numerical skills and critical analysis skills, kind of some of the more humane skills, that we believe that if you can find the right type of person, you can actually train someone to do this particular job. And remember, at Monocle, the jobs are multifarious. You could end up doing just about anything within a bank or an insurance company, but it usually has a great deal of complexity and detail to do with it. So the best way for us to ensure that we're getting those skills is to make sure that we train them and test them inside of Monocle. So that's how we created the kind of skill sets that we wanted, and they include hard skills, coding skills, programming skills, design skills, data design skills, etc. Also include soft skills, so some of the more critical communication skills, subject matter skills, so for example, the history of banking, technical aspects of capital and liquidity ratios, how to read a balance sheet, and finally critical thinking skills. So we want people to really apply themselves. The history of banking and the fundamentals of banking and the critical thinking skills I like to do myself. I don't always do every hour of that training, but it's a great passion of mine to be personally involved.
That's awesome. And I suppose, students out there coming along to looking at the different companies and, where should I apply to? What would you say to them? What makes Monocle unique and why should they, look at joining Monocle?
I mean, I think there are a number of very good companies out there, Patrick. Yeah. And if you're a student and you're talented, you've got infinite opportunity. I think what's special about Monocle for me, and what a lot of people say, is that there's very much a kind of a family or friendship atmosphere. We do a lot of things together, social things. We explore ideas that are, ideological ideas together. We work a lot on our social involvement. We think one should have a lot of fun at work. We don't understand why work needs to be just work. We have a very balanced attitude, and personally, it's a company that I would have loved to work for before founding it, which sounds a little biased, but I think at Monocle you will get incredibly skilled. You will have more opportunity once you're at Monocle than you had before, and you'll have a lot of fun doing it, and you'll learn how the world works. You'll learn how the financial system really works. For me, that's one of the critical aspects.
Yeah, and I think you've touched on it there, about having fun, and culture is a massive part of that, and I think it's something that you are exceptionally proud of and placed a huge emphasis on even from day one at Monocle. Yes, we work hard, but we also enjoy what we do, and initiatives like the mountain biking team and the golf team and netball and part of that work-life balance, and I think that's what makes it very unique in terms of a place where you can really apply your skill set but also enjoy that.
Well, as you know, Patrick, I had an opportunity to ride in the Monocle mountain biking team.
Yeah.
And so I looked at the Monocle Chronicle, which I have to confess I don't always have an opportunity to look at just time-wise.
Yeah.
And it's crazy. I mean, it's like an entire Olympic schedule of sports and then social activities and people getting married and having babies and action netball, which I'm thinking of joining myself.
Brilliant.
And there's a lot going on on offer, which means that we create a kind of broad cohesion in the company where people have touch points with each other at different levels and dimensions. Yeah. So I was very proud when I saw that.
And celebrating each other's successes, as you said. It's it's a key part of the journey along in terms of that development, and I think it's very unique. And I suppose if you're looking at the graduate program, was set up as the Analyst Graduate Programme now, and we've obviously defined it and changed it and made it more unique year by year. We obviously listened to feedback and evolve it. What are you most proud about, David, in terms of the Analyst Graduate Programme?
Oh, that's a tough one. I mean, I really enjoy teaching people some really fundamental concepts about banking. I find that very interesting. Most people, I would argue, even within banks, don't necessarily understand some of the conceptual framework, but critical thinking is a lot of fun. I'm not sure if people know what critical thinking is, but it's a completely different way of reading text and reading signs in the world. And people get very elated by it, and they really enjoy it. And then we always have social functions afterwards. And to watch these people, these young minds that come out of the university, engage at this level, compete with each other to some extent. People sometimes get a bit negative about, the future of our country, or which usually I would like to just dispel that negativity. But if I was motivated to do so, I'd say, come and see these young people in action, and tell me that you're not excited about the future. It's impossible.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I think for students out there who are looking from the outside in, I suppose you always talk about, following your passion, and, it's a key part of whatever industry you want to be part of, What advice would you give to them in this day and age in terms of looking for a career?
It's a great question. I think this obsessive focus on what I'm going to be doing, like the actual tasks, is probably at this stage of one's career not the right focus. The focus should be on how would the outcome be so that I can maximize my opportunities. So I would want to join a firm at that age, at a graduate age, which provided me with the most training, the most interaction with like-minded people, the most opportunity both locally and internationally, and the most fun. Because either way you're going to work. The question is, are you going to work and enjoy it and enjoy the people around you? If one obsessively focuses on the tasks, then one to some degree misses the wood for the trees. It's important to just enjoy the environment. At some point you could start to focus on, I'd like to specialize in this or that, but that would be, I would say 7 to 8 years after graduating.
And I think the key thing is like identifying what you're passionate about, and putting yourself forward for that opportunity, and whether it be a company or industry, and making sure that you're committed to it. Commitment is key, and you show the key skills and skill sets needed. Resilience, tenacity, and going wholeheartedly into that, and not taking a position where someone else could effectively take that. I think that's a key bit of advice in terms of get to the students.
Yes, you get, I think, this kind of phenomenon of very smart graduates sort of having lots of opportunities, and inadvertently, like 2 years later, you can see that very, very sadly they took a few wrong steps and they jumped from one thing to another, and then before you know it, they're 2 years behind the curve. My advice would be, if you are one of those students, pick what you want to do for the right reasons and stick to it. Do it for at least 2 to 3 years and pivot from there. But you can't retake the exam repeatedly. You know what I mean?
And 100% right. And I suppose on the topic of exams, we place a huge emphasis on certifications within the program. Maybe just speak to why that's so important, and making sure that the analyst profiles are really built out.
Yes. So if one comes to Monocle and does the graduate program and gets through it, which most do, you should have a bunch of certifications, which not only are virtue signaling processes for customers of ours, but for the graduates themselves, they have those as international designations. So it's a fantastic place to get learning. And everyone's on the same boat. Everyone wants to learn. We need those profiles to look good, and we need these people to have these skills, not only so that they can signal that they know this stuff, but also because they're going to be working with these skills. They're going to need these skills.
And the investment in people, as you say, is a key asset in terms of Monocle, making sure we've got the best people out there to provide the best consulting services.
I always say this, you can't get away from the fact that we're a people company. So if we're not investing in a coal mine or a geolocating software, we invest pretty much only in our intellectual property and our people.
I suppose lastly, a lot of questions that we get in interview processes and things like that, how can the students and graduates prepare themselves for that process? Maybe you might give some advice on that.
Yes, I think number one, if you do apply for lots of companies and you're going into an interview, every single interview, just remember that the interviewer will come from that company, and they'll maybe love the company. They'll be quite offended if you haven't done your research on the company. So it's essential to actually know what type of company you're speaking to. I find when I interview people, Patrick, it's imperative that the person's done some basic research on the company.
Yeah.
The second is to be honest and to be clear about what your objectives are. So if, for example, you want to join a company, get 3 years of experience and then move to Tasmania, that's okay. If your interviewer knows what your objective is. There's a misunderstanding in the world where people are expected to say that, they're now committing for life to a company.
Yeah.
This is not a realistic expectation. Rather be clear about what you're trying to achieve and why.
Yeah.
And third is, I would say, personality-wise or from a place of character, if you've applied to a place and you have all the skills that you think they need, great. If you don't, maybe ask questions, find out how you could get those skills and show some inner confidence, I would argue.
Yeah, 100% right. And I always find that, you can do so much preparation and, you put so much time into a CV and, research, and then, you get to the final stage and then you need to obviously, impress in all aspects and dress to impress. The last thing you want to do is let yourself down.
True.
It's your own brand within that brand.
How you look on the day, how alert you are is very important.
Yeah.
And on the CVs, Patrick, the CV is to get you to the interview.
Yeah.
The interview itself, it's imperative that it's open and honest and, flowing.
Yeah. And the type of person who we ultimately look for to join the Analyst Graduate Programme?
We like people who are nice people. Yeah. I know that sounds very corny. We just like people that are thoughtful, decent. So it's good to be ultra competitive, but not at the expense of decency. We like people who like people.
Yeah.
In other words, we want to see that people get along with each other. We're a consulting firm after all.
Yeah.
We like people who have demonstrated resilience, before, or they can say that they don't give up, that they're not those kinds of people. And we like people who really would love to understand and be part of the great kind of infrastructure of the financial world, which is fascinating and keeps everything going. So we have a deep passion for the actual subject. It's not just about, billing hours and being a consultant. It's also to be part of improving, the brain that allocates capital and liquidity to the body economic.
Yeah.
So we're that passionate.
Yeah, and we're obviously looking for the brightest minds out there, but that doesn't mean you must have 8 or 9 distinctions, through it. I think we've always looked at a track record of success, that you've been involved in different kind of team or sports events or different kind of, I suppose, programs within universities as well. Well-rounded people,
Exactly. Leadership and communication and involvement in community are equally as important as a straight set of A's.
Yeah.
Not everyone can get straight A's, and not everyone should get straight A's. And often people who get the straight A's, we need to work on other aspects, later on.
Yeah.
So balance is critical.
Yeah. Thanks, David. It's been a real pleasure chatting to you about the Monocle Analyst Graduate Programme. And for anyone who wants to find out any more details, you can obviously check out the Monocle website, our LinkedIn page, and follow us and get any more kind of information you need from there. Have a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Patrick.